What's up, y'all? I'm Alan Hain, the Lawn Care Nut. Thanks for coming back for yet another week. So I'd like to welcome you to a very, very rainy Saturday morning here in Parrish, Florida. I'm not gonna be able to do too much filming out here, at least not right now, because we've got rain off and on pretty much all morning so far. But the problem here is I am super overgrown.
This is what happens when you put down a good application of Milorganite 7 days ago. Look at that color and that St. Ag. Beautiful, beautiful St. Ag.
So the fact that it's raining means I'm not going to be able to get out and enjoy my mow like I typically like to do on early Saturday mornings here, but it is going to give me a good chance to speak to some of you that are newer subscribers and give you kind of a beginner's type video, which is something I haven't done in a while. You see this shirt I'm wearing here? No, it's not a sponsor. This is actually one of my best friends. This is his YouTube channel. His name is Steve Sharon. I'll link him in the description below. So I'm wearing his shirt today because he recently, I mean just like recently, like yesterday, reminded me of something very important. And that is that now that we've passed the 100,000 subscriber mark, thank you very much to all of you for that, by the way, but we've got a lot of you here that are definitely beginners, and sometimes my content gets a little bit advanced and I kind of forget about you guys that are just coming along, just learning, you know, and I'm here sitting here talking about calculating N rates and all kinds of stuff, and you guys are sitting there going, what, dude? So the fact that it's raining then gives me a chance to set up the studio here and give you some quick tips on how to cure that ugly lawn. Because it seems when you look at SEO keywords, for some reason, a lot of you guys search that, like how to fix an ugly lawn, and I thought, well, okay, I'll give you some tips that'll get you started to that. But then don't forget, look in the description below where I'll give you more detailed information, videos that kind of expound on the topics that I talk about here. That way you can get started here, you can get some beginning ideas here, you can subscribe to the channel, then you can look at the description below and get more information and get deeper into some of these concepts and take that lawn from ugly to beautiful. One thing's for sure, even when it's raining out, it's still very humid and hot here, and I love it. All right, so let's talk about it. How to fix an ugly lawn. This is gonna be fun, I think. We're gonna go back to basics, and even for those of you that are a little more advanced, I still think you're gonna get a lot out of this. I hope you do, because it's always good to go back and revisit things that you think you know. It's been good for me too. All right, so first off, let's talk about mowing, because mowing is the single most important thing that you need to do, and you need to do it properly in order to get your lawn healthy. There is nothing else in this video that I'm going to give you that is important as mowing. So we're going to spend most of our time there, and we're going to do it right up front.
So just think about this concept for a minute. That's one grass blade that I pulled from St. Augustine. Now again, it's overgrown. But just look at all of that leaf surface that can absorb sunlight. You want to allow that as much as possible. And while you do need to cut your lawn, you want to cut it as tall as possible to leave as much of that leaf surface exposed, so when you cut it off, you still have quite a bit of leaf surface exposed to absorb sunlight, which then allows photosynthesis to occur, which then allows sugars to go down the plant. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about supporting that process when we talk about watering and fertilizing, but the idea of cutting tall is to allow more leaf surface to be exposed to the sun all the time.
So what I recommend you do, if you don't even want to try to measure how tall you're mowing, just set your mower all the way to the tallest setting and let it go. Just forget it. That's the easiest thing to do as a beginner.
All I'll do is put it in the little holes over here, and I'll put it in the rest area over here. Put the window up, I'll set it, and forget it!
Just take that mower all the way up to the highest setting and you're good to go. Walk away, forget about it. Now the other thing to remember here is you'll see that when I folded that over, I did that in an exact third. That's what I would leave. You never want to cut more than 1/3 of the grass blade's total length off in a single cutting. The reason that you don't want to do that is you don't want to stress it too much. If you take off 1/3, the grass blade can handle it. It'll be fine. It'll regrow. Everything will be good. If you take off any more than that, and you're gonna send a lot of stress into this plant, and while it may recover, it'll be stunted, and that stunting can allow for other problems to seep into the lawn, such as insect disease or even weed pressure. You see, there's a reason we plant certain types or species of grass as turf grass in lawns. It's because those types of grass can handle weekly mowing, and they can continue to grow through, and they can create a really nice carpet, and they can also resist weeds, insects, and disease. That's why certain grass types are considered good for turf grass. However, when you stress them out, when you stunt them by cutting too much off, then they can't do what they're meant to do, which is spread and hold and keep that carpet. It stunts them. And so then, in that case, it allows those problems to move in. So that also answers the question of how often should I mow? You should mow so that you only take off 1/3 of the grass blade's length in a single mowing. So for some of you that could be once a week, maybe twice a week. Down here in the south with St. Augustine, in the height of the growing season, you know, like June, July, it's definitely twice a week. Sometimes even every 3 days if I really wanted to get nutty, which of course I do. Now you also want to make sure that you do have a sharp blade. If you don't know how to sharpen the blade, you don't want to sharpen the blade, just go to your local lawnmower shop, buy a brand new blade as a replacement that should come sharpened, put that on your mower and leave the old one with them and let them sharpen it for you. It costs you 10 to 15 bucks, but then you'll have 2 blades all the time that you can switch in and out. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to use a file. As you guys saw in my last week's video, I don't really know how to use a file either. But either way, keep the blade sharp. Trying to give you really good, simple beginner tips to make sure that you can mow that lawn properly, because mowing is really the most important thing. Now the next piece with mowing is that you want to mulch the clippings. And I know you guys hear this all the time. You should mulch your clippings because it's like natural fertilizer. I know that some of you hear that and you're like, whatever dude, I don't even believe that. But seriously, it's a true concept and it really works. In a lot of places across this country, there are hay farmers. And if you talk to hay farmers, they live and die by the amount of nitrogen that's in that soil, and they definitely want to return as much as they can because they know that when they go to harvest their hay crop, they're actually removing nitrogen that they had to put in to make the hay grow.
So it's pretty logical if you think about it. The way that grass grows is it's a plant, right? And if you remember from your middle school botany classes, what plants do is they create sugars through the process of photosynthesis, and they make their own food so they can grow. But there's something that has to support that growth, just like in humans.
I mean, you've heard they tell kids, you know, take your vitamins, eat your spinach so you can grow up big and strong. It's kind of very similar to your lawn. If you're feeding it, by the way, fertilizer is not lawn food. It's just, that's kind of a generic term we use. But if you're feeding the lawn, or actually you're feeding the soil with the right nutrients and enough moisture, that will then support optimum photosynthesis in the lawn and help the lawn grow thicker, quicker and stronger and resist all kinds of disease pressure, you know, heat pressure, whatever other kind of pressure it can get.
So I want you to think about it. You're going to apply fertilizer, which is essentially nitrogen, and it's other things. But when you apply that nitrogen then is into the soil, and once it becomes readily available within the soil, the grass plant uptakes it along with water. And then those nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, other micronutrients too, like iron and other things. We don't get too complicated here, but all of those nutrients support the process of photosynthesis, so more sugars can be sent down the plant to spread out the roots, create more roots, or in this case, St. Augustine, create more runners, and then more nutrients and water can go up, more photosynthesis can occur, up, down, grow, spread, grow, spread, grow, spread, grow, spread.
And that's what we want, right? We want that grow, spread, grow, spread, grow, spread, grow, spread all around to create this beautiful, thick, carpeted turf.
So just logic with me now. If I'm putting in nitrogen fertilizers and the grass is using that to grow, right? But then I cut that grass plant off, some of that nitrogen is in those blades because it's been taken up, right? And that's why it's green too, by the way. If I take those blades out and away from the lawn, I am physically removing nitrogen. However, if I mulch them back in and let everything go back down, I am returning that nitrogen. It's just in a little different form, but I am returning that nitrogen back into the soil, and that is super healthy. And that's why you should mulch your clippings as often as possible.
All right, so now I'm gonna go in the garage because, like I said, even though it's rainy, it's sweaty out here. But I'm gonna go ahead and go in the garage. But what I wanted to suggest to you, or what I really want to get you to understand here, is that mowing is probably the most important lawn care chore you can do. Mowing properly. It's probably the #1 way to take an ugly lawn to looking better is to mow properly. And so I hope you'll take those tips to heart, and then we'll get to the rest. All right, next is irrigation. Now this is one that, you know, can stop some of you from succeeding because you have water restrictions, or maybe you just have too big of a lawn to water. So that's something that you need to consider, is irrigation. If you can't irrigate, at least pick one spot. Maybe only do the front and not the back. have some kind of strategy so you can at least have a part of your lawn looking good and keep that irrigated well all season long. Now this will mostly appeal to those of you up north, and in fact I've got a video down below that I'll link to that tells you exactly how to water your lawn. But for those of you with cool season grass, especially during the summer season, you want to get down 1/2 inch of water every week. That's it. Pretty simple to do that. Just put a rain gauge out in the lawn, throw your sprinkler out, see how long it takes for the sprinkler to hit 1/2 inch of water in an area, and then move it. You obviously have some overlap that you're going to do, but again, that's part of the fun of lawn care, right? Is figuring out how am I going to move my sprinklers around. I lived up north for 15 years on my turf type tall fescue lawn, and I only had manual sprinklers that I moved around, and it actually became a very good source of enjoyment for me and a great excuse to drink a craft beer. Down south, water requirements are a little bit different depending where you live. I'm in Florida and I'm coastal, so right now for the last few months we've been getting enough rain every day. We get rain pretty much every day in the afternoon, and this year's been a super wet season, but even in normal years we get rain every afternoon, so I don't have to run my irrigation system at all. I don't have to drag any sprinklers around. The only time I have to do that is in the earlier spring when we're not in our rainy season, and in that case I get down about the same thing, about 1/2 inch a week. But I have to watch temperatures because down here in Florida, temperatures can skyrocket pretty quickly, and sometimes I have to double up on that. So in that case, and what I want you to understand, north, south, east, west, no matter where you live, there's nothing that can substitute good observation and logic and just watching your lawn and getting to know what it does and how it responds. Okay, so you have your mowing down and your irrigation, which those are the top two in order of importance. Next, let's talk about fertilizing, because that's the one that's probably the most daunting for most of you. It's also the one that's got what I would say the highest barrier to entry. But once you kind of figure it out and you do it a few times and you know that everything works out okay, it becomes very easy for you. It becomes a very simple task. Now, the first thing is I'm going to recommend that you use organics. I've got my friend Milo down here. They are not sponsoring this video, but I have loved them, been in love with them, been using their fertilizers for many years, long before they ever knew who the Lawn Care Nut was. And the reason that I recommend Milorganite and other organic fertilizers, you can pick whatever one you want, the reason I recommend those is because they're goof-proof. Now, trust me, I can understand the environmental impacts and being friendly and all that kind of stuff, and trust me, I totally appreciate that. But the real reason, the number one reason that I always recommend organics is because they're goof-proof and because they get results. The reason they're goof-proof is because they're not going to burn your lawn. It's just that organics are naturally slow releasing, and that's really what burns a lawn. Burns a lawn is when too much nutrient is zapped right into it too quick. Organics won't do that even if you over apply. Now, I'm not telling you to go totally nuts and crazy and be stupid about it, but definitely understand that you have a bigger margin of error when you're using these, and if you do make a mistake as a beginner, you're going to be just fine, and you may even discover what a lot of you have, that when you throw her down for real, you get extra, double, triple awesome results.
Throw her down! Let's hope for the best!
Now, I don't want you to think that I'm too crazy here. I do recommend that you measure your lawn, and I'll link below. There's been a couple of videos I've done that show you how to measure your lawn, and it's very important because you need to know how big each lawn space is. Once you know that, then you can kind of go out and fertilize with organics and you'll be just fine. I know spreader settings are a problem and all that, so let's talk about that right now. What spreader setting do I use, or does it even matter when I'm using an organic?
So let's just take this little section right here, and let me just do a really quick tutorial for you, a beginner's kind of tutorial on applying fertilizer. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is understand how big is this lawn space. Again, I'm going to link below to some videos I did on that, but we can get a quick measurement, very quick, just like this. By the way, we all have trouble with crackweeds. So we need to get length and we need to get width. Okay, so let's do this first one here. Ready? Let's walk it off. Take normal step.
Alright, so that was 13 steps, and we're going to consider that each step is 3 feet. Your mileage may vary. Some of you guys that are over 6 foot, your steps might be a little bit more, so you might want to figure out how long yours are, but for me, I'm just about 3 feet and I'm pretty safe.
Now we're going to measure this end here. 15. I'm cutting it off here at the palm tree. Okay, so that square, I don't know if you can see the sidewalk over there, right over there. So that square from the sidewalk and all the way over here and right to that palm tree. So I'm 13 steps by 15 steps.
So yes, we do have to do a little bit of math now, but don't worry, it's beginner's math.
All right, so there is our square, right? And there's our palm tree right there. This is a sidewalk. I'm trying to draw while I film, so it's not the greatest. But we said 13 steps this way, and we said 15 steps this way, right? So if each step is 3 feet, 13 times 3, 9, 3, right? 39 feet, is that right? So we're gonna make my math easy. We're gonna make it a 40, and then we've got a 15 times 3 is 15, 3, 4, 45. So that means that this section here is 40 by 45. So we gotta do a little math there. 40 by 45, put that up there so I can annex that 0. 4 times 5 is 18, so that's 1,800 square feet. Okay, so that means that this section, again, here we are back out here again, right? Sidewalk over there, right? That section right there, all the way up to this palm tree here, is 1,800 square feet.
All right, now you're well on your way to knowing how much fertilizer to put down on this 1,800 square foot lawn. Let's take a look at the bag now. Okay, now most of you, whatever fertilizer you get, it's gonna be right on the front. See this? Covers 2,500 square feet. Now I know Florida, 6,000 square feet. That's a different rate for Florida. We're not looking at that right now. What we're looking at here is this one, and this is the one that I want most of you to use. This is the one that I use when I'm not in public.
You have the luxury of not knowing what I know. You don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
But anyway, so 2,500, right? So we know though that our lawn space is 1,800, right? So if we have 1,800 and this covers 2,500, that means that we're going to use how much of that bag? So just do some simple math in your head. 1,800 divided by 2,500 is what? It's like 3/4. I think it's like 0.71 or 0.72. You could do the math on your calculator, but it's 3/4. 0.72 is like 3/4. So what does that mean? It means I need 3/4 of this bag in order to cover this section of my lawn out here. Does that make sense? I'm really sweating now. I love it. So do you get that? 3/4 of that bag would cover this area. I'm just looking at the very simplest math that I can. The bag says it covers 2,500 square feet. I have 1,800 square feet, so I've got 3/4 of that lawn size, or 3/4 of a 2,500 square foot lawn. So then I therefore logically should put down 3/4 of that bag to get a proper application on this section of my lawn. Well, so how do you know 3/4 of the bag? Well, you eyeball it, okay? It's not that hard. Just eyeball it. That's why I say this is goof proof. It's an organic. If you go too much, if you happen to actually put that entire bag down, one full bag on that lawn out there, you're gonna have no problems, no issues. In fact, your lawn is gonna be beautiful green. Beautiful green. However, if you really do, then eyeball it. Eyeball 3/4 of the bag. Seriously, I trust you to eyeball 3/4 of the bag. Nah. Time for me to get my sunglasses out and a towel. Okay, another question that I do get often though is, should I mow before I fertilizer? And the answer is, yeah, you probably should. Just makes it a little bit cleaner. It's not required, but if you do mow, just mow normal. You don't have to mow extra low, none of that kind of stuff. Just mow normal, which I said was tall, before you fertilize. Probably a good idea just to allow the fertilizer to kind of get down a little bit deeper, a little bit quicker.
The question that I always get next is, how do I set the spreader, right? Because you have all these different settings that you can use, and sometimes that can be a little bit confusing. All right, so the first thing is I recommend you use a broadcast spreader. That's going to give you the most consistent application, and it's going to make things the easiest on you. Next are the settings, and you can see there's, in this one, this is an earthway spreader, but it doesn't matter, they're all going to be different. Some have a dial, but there's multiple different settings that I can use, right? And you can see is that the further I dial this back, the more those drop holes are open. See, they're fully open right there. Now watch when I close it. So when I close it like that, now you can see the drop holes are a little bit more closed. Okay, so it's closed right there. And what I recommend you do when you're first starting out is set it down at a lower setting. Somewhere about 1/3 of the way to the end. And then just lock it down. So now that we have it locked in at 1/3, I'm gonna go ahead and open this up. There's no FERT in there. And you'll be able to see my drop holes are slightly open. See that?
Now, I've got a very important video for you that I'm going to link below that's going to show you exactly how to fertilize this lawn, how to do a trim pass, and then how to throw back to the wheel marks of the previous pass. That's not as hard as it seems, but I'm going to go ahead and link you to that video. You're going to need to watch it. But the question that you'll have is, well, how do I know that setting is right so that I can get this done in one pass? Because that's really the goal, right? Is to get the lawn fertilized with one pass of each area.
So the goal would be to go up and back and up and back and up and back and be done, and have that exactly empty. Whatever you put in there, that 3/4 of a bag that you put in there, that when you went up and back one time, it would be completely empty when you finish.
And that's what you would call a perfect application. And over time, it's not hard to get that. It's just like swinging a golf club or riding a bike. You just kind of know, you just know the feel, you know the walking speed, which is 3.5 miles per hour. It kind of just makes sense and you feel it. But until then, I'm going to give you a foolproof method, or one that I used to like to use when I was a beginner, that'll really help you out. And that is the cross method.
So I can tell you that on most spreaders, no matter what spreader you get, the setting for Milorganite for a one pass like I just showed you is probably going to be somewhere a little bit higher, somewhere up in there, because we really want to get this down heavy. However, because you're a beginner and you're not sure, we've dialed it back. What I want you to do is plan to make this in 2, maybe even 3 passes. So here's what you do. Load up your hopper with all 3/4 of that bag, the whole thing. And then what I want you to do is go up and back and up and back and up and back. And I want you to do what I call a double fast walk with your spreader. When you're done, you're going to have some left over, more than likely. Because again, I keep reiterating this, but that's the reason for this low setting. You're probably going to have some left. And then I need you to see, how much do I have left? Do I have 50% of what I started with? Or do I have 75% of what I started with? Or only, figure out how much you have left. And then I want you to use logic. In a perfect world, you'd have exactly half of what you started with left. And in that case, now what I want you to do is go back this way. Don't go the same way, because you can create stripes. Go back this way, same walking speed, same overlap, all the way back. And essentially then when you get done with that second pass going that way, that should be empty right when you hit the edge of this palm tree here. Now, in the case that it was 3/4 full still, then what I want you to do is slow your walking speed down a little bit. Don't change the setting. Go back and forth this way again, but just slow down a little bit and let more come out. So essentially eyeballing it all the way through, again, so that when you get back to the end here, bam, you're at 0.
And so you can kind of figure out the rest from there. You get the idea that I'm talking about. I want you to get it done in a 2-app situation. The first app that you're doing going this way gives you a gauge. It lets you see how things are working, how much is coming out, how much is going down in the hopper, so you understand on the second pass how to adjust. And you're just going to adjust through walking speed and nothing more.
Now over time, when you've been doing this for a while, that's when then you can start to figure it out. Okay, well, I understand that when I'm done, I'm having 3/4 left or half or whatever, and then you can adjust this back a little bit, because now you understand how your walking speed's already adjusted. Now you start playing with another variable, which is the amount that comes out of the hopper, right? By opening these up even further.
And that's really it. Just understand your variables of how you set the spreader and your walking speed. I'm assuming that you're going to get the overlap right, which is throwing back to the wheel marks of the previous pass. Again, I've got videos in the description below that'll help you with that concept. Well, I'm thinking I may have gotten a little bit too technical with that description. Please, don't let that stop you. Just go out and throw her down. Just go out there and put the fertilizer down. Don't be scared of it, okay? Trust me, you're gonna be fine. Don't let that stop you. Don't be scared. By the way, if you can't find Milorganite, a lot of you, it's not sold where you live, or it's just not available or whatever, I'll link in the description below to Ringer Lawn Restore, another really good organic fertilizer that I like that has potassium in it, so it's going to give you that really like true green color rather than the bluish green color that the Milorganite gives you, which is a really nice look too. I'll link in the description below to that. They've got free shipping, and I'm pretty sure they can ship everywhere, even Canada. Now, how often should you fertilize? If you're trying to cure an ugly lawn, I want you to fertilize every 5 weeks on the dot with an organic fertilizer. Put it down, throw her down, keep mowing, keep irrigating. Keep in mind, fertilizing this much is going to cause you to have to mow more, okay? But that's all right, because we're trying to fix this ugly lawn, and the way we fix the ugly lawn is to stimulate the turf grass to grow, and the way we stimulate the turf grass to grow is by keeping it mowed properly, consistently, keeping it irrigated, and definitely keeping fertilizer in there so that photosynthesis is supported. Okay, now the last one is weed control. I know that's one that everybody's going to ask about, but really, this is not the most important on the order of the list. And in fact, I'm not going to talk too much about it in this video. And the reason that is because I want you to master the other three first. I want you to master the mowing first and foremost. Secondly, I want you to get your irrigation in order. Figure that part out. And then thirdly, I want you to start fertilizing with organics every 5 weeks to stimulate growth. Yes, it is going to stimulate the weeds to grow too. But trust me, the turf grass will outcompete it to a certain degree. You're not ever going to be able to eliminate weeds completely, especially in the South. But you're never going to be able to eliminate weeds completely in any lawn just with proper fertilizing, mowing, and watering. But you can get, I would say, at least 50 to 60% there, and then you can pick up the chemical treatments and the weed control, which I'll link to the videos in the description below that explain how to spray for weeds and things like that. And if you subscribe to the channel, I'm sure that I'll be doing another weed spray video, a very comprehensive one, sometime in the next couple of months.
And so with that, I'm going to go out now and enjoy my mow. As always, I hope these tips have been helpful to you. I'm Alan Hain, the Lawn Care Nut. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the lawn.